Either you sign the shop over to us, or we're done helping you. That's what my son said while I was pouring him lemonade. His wife nodded beside him, arms crossed, like they'd rehearsed this moment in the car. It was a Sunday afternoon in June, and I'd just pulled a fresh batch of scones from the oven. The kind Michael used to beg me to make when he was 10. We were sitting at my kitchen table, the same pine table where I'd helped him with homework, where I'd held him after his father died. And that's the sentence he chose to speak while reaching for a scone. He didn't yell. He didn't even seem angry. He said it like he was discussing a business deal, like I should have seen this coming. Karen added, "We're not trying to be cruel, Helen. We just think it's time. You're 68. The shop is too much for you. It would be easier if you transferred it now. Less hassle when." She trailed off, but I knew how that sentence ended. "When you're gone." I set down the pitcher of lemonade and looked at them both. My son, 42 years old, wearing a polo shirt that cost more than my weekly groceries, his wife, with her designer handbag resting on my worn tablecloth like a judge's gavel. I felt something shift inside me. Not anger, not sadness, something quieter, something like steel cooling in water. "The shop has been in this family for 31 years, I said slowly. "Exactly," Michael said. "Which is why it should stay in the family, in our names, officially. You can still work there if you want, but we'd handle the business side, the finances, the decisions." I looked at my scones, golden and warm, and suddenly I didn't want to eat them anymore. "I'll think about it," I said. Karen smiled like she'd won something. Michael kissed my cheek before they left, the same quick peck he'd given me since he was a teenager embarrassed to hug his mother in public. When the door closed behind them, the house went quiet. The kind of quiet that feels like it's asking questions. I walked to the window and watched their SUV pull away. Then I sat down in Frank's old recliner, the one I couldn't bring myself to donate after he passed, and I let myself remember. Frank and I opened the Storybook Corner in 1994, 3 years after we moved to Millbrook. We'd saved every penny from his construction jobs and my nursing shifts. The building was a wreck when we bought it. Peeling paint, water damage, a family of raccoons living in the storage room. But Frank saw what it could be. He spent 6 months renovating it himself, nights and weekends, while I worked double shifts to keep us afloat. I remember the day we opened. Michael was 11, more interested in the free cookies than the books. My daughter Sarah was 8, already a reader, already proud. Frank hung the sign himself, the Storybook Corner. He said every town needed a place where stories lived. For 3 decades, that shop was more than a business. It was where I hosted story time for toddlers, where teenagers came to study after school, where lonely widowers browsed the mystery section just to have someone to talk to. It was where I hired Jenny Okafor, a single mother with 2 kids and no experience, because I saw something in her eyes that reminded me of myself at 25. It was where I built a life after Frank's heart attack took him from me 8 years ago. The shop didn't just sell books, it kept me breathing. And now my son wanted me to hand it over like it was just property, just real estate. That night, I didn't sleep much. I lay in bed listening to the house settle around me, and I thought about all the things I'd given Michael over the years. The down payment on his first house, the loan he never repaid when his restaurant failed, the college fund for his children that I'd quietly contributed to every month, the times I'd babysat for free while he and Karen took vacations. I'd never kept a ledger, but that night I started counting. By morning, I'd made a decision. I would sign something, but not what they expected. The following week, I called Arthur Brennan, the attorney who'd handled Frank's estate. His office still smelled like old books and coffee, which I took as a good sign. "I want to transfer ownership of my shop," I said. He nodded, pulling out a legal pad. "To your son?" "No, to the Millbrook Literacy Foundation." Arthur's pen stopped moving. He looked at me over his reading glasses. "That's a significant decision, Helen." "I know. May I ask why?" I told him about Sunday, about the lemonade and the scones and the ultimatum delivered like a business proposal. I told him about 31 years of building something meaningful and about watching my son see only dollar signs where I saw stories. Arthur listened without interrupting. When I finished, he set down his pen. "I'll need to explain the process," he said. "There are options. You can transfer the property now with a retained life estate, meaning you continue to operate the shop and live in the apartment above it until your passing. After that, the foundation takes ownership. Can they contest it? They can try. But if you're of sound mind and acting voluntarily, they'll have a difficult case." He paused. "I'd recommend getting a letter from your physician, confirming your capacity, just to close that door before anyone tries to open it." I nodded. "What else?" "Documentation. Keep records of your daily activities, bills you pay, decisions you make. Show that you're managing your own affairs." He smiled slightly. "Which you clearly are." We spent 3 hours going through the paperwork. By the time I left, my hand ached from signing, but my shoulders felt lighter than they had in years. I didn't tell Michael what I'd done, not yet. That evening, he called. "Hey, Mom. Karen and I were talking. We think it would be good to get the paperwork moving this week. Strike while the iron's hot, you know?" "I'm still thinking," I said. "What's there to think about? It's a simple transfer. We're protecting you. I'll let you know when I'm ready." He sighed, the same impatient sigh he'd been making since he was 16. "Don't overthink this, Mom. We're trying to help." After we hung up, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on the back porch. The fireflies were just starting to come out, blinking their tiny signals across the yard. Frank and I used to sit here and watch them, not talking, just being together. I raised my glass to the empty chair beside me. "They think I'm giving it away," I whispered. "And I am, just not to them." The next Saturday, Karen showed up at the shop unannounced. I was helping a customer find a gift for her granddaughter when the bell above the door chimed, and there she was, clutching a folder like a weapon. "Helen, we need to talk." I excused myself from the customer and led Karen to the back office, past the shelves of children's books, past the reading nook where a father was quietly reading to his toddler. "Michael's worried," Karen said, settling into the chair across from my desk. "You keep saying you'll think about it, but we haven't seen any movement." "I've been busy with the shop." "That's exactly the problem." She opened the folder and spread papers across my desk. "Look at these numbers. Your revenue is down 12% from last year. Overhead is up. You're barely breaking even." I didn't look at the papers. I looked at her. "Karen, do you know why I opened this shop?" She blinked. "Because you like books?" "Because when I was 7 years old, the only escape I had from my father's drinking was the library 2 blocks from our apartment. Because books saved my life. Because I wanted to give other people the same escape." I straightened a pen on my desk. "The numbers matter. But they're not the only thing that matters." Karen's expression flickered, something between annoyance and confusion. "That's very sweet, Helen. But sentiment doesn't pay bills. I'm not asking you to pay my bills." "No, but you'll be asking us eventually, when the shop fails, when you can't manage anymore." She leaned forward. "We're trying to prevent that. Just sign the papers, and you won't have to worry about any of it." I stood up and walked to the door. "I appreciate you coming by, Karen, but I have customers to help." She gathered her papers with sharp, angry movements. At the door, she turned back. "Michael's mother was right about you. You've always been stubborn." "His mother was my mother-in-law," I said calmly, "and she also thought women shouldn't run businesses, so I'll take that as a compliment." Karen left without another word. Through the front window, I watched her march to her car, already pulling out her phone. Probably calling Michael. Let her. That night, I started my own ledger. Not of what I'd given, but of what I'd decided. I wrote at the top, Helen's boundaries. Underneath, I listed the facts. Shop transferred to Literacy Foundation. Life estate retained. Decision final. I added another line. Said no to Karen. Didn't apologize. It felt like the beginning of something. The pressure came in waves after that. First, Michael called 3 times in 2 days. I let 2 of them go to voicemail. On the 3rd call, I answered. "Mom," Karen said, "you basically threw her out of the shop." "I asked her to leave because I had customers. That's not throwing." "She's upset." "We're both upset. We're trying to help you, and you're treating us like enemies." I was quiet for a moment. Then I said, "Michael, when was the last time you called me without needing something?" Silence. "That's not fair," he finally said. "Maybe not, but it's true." He hung up. I wrote in my ledger, asked the real question. No answer. The following week, they sent a registered letter. Legal language, vaguely threatening, suggesting that my refusal to discuss estate planning was concerning and might necessitate alternative measures. I showed it to Arthur. He laughed. "Alternative measures is lawyer speak for, 'We have nothing,'" he said. "They're trying to scare you." Can they really do anything? They can petition for guardianship, claiming you're not competent to manage your own affairs. But that requires evidence. Medical evaluations, court hearings. He shook his head. "You're sharp as a tack, Helen. They'd be wasting their money." I got my capacity letter from Dr. Patterson that same week. Oriented, organized, fully capable of independent decision-making. I added it to a red folder I'd started keeping, alongside the transfer documents, bank statements, and a daily log of my activities. Proof that my life was still mine. Then came the guilt visit. It was a Wednesday evening. I'd just closed the shop and was climbing the stairs to my apartment when I heard footsteps behind me. Michael was standing at the bottom of the stairwell, hands in his pockets, looking younger somehow. Vulnerably. "Can we talk?" "Just us?" I let him in. Made tea. We sat at my small kitchen table, and for a few minutes, it almost felt normal. "I'm sorry about Karen," he said. "She gets intense." I waited. "Look, I know things have been tense. But Mom, I'm worried about you. This shop, this building, it's a lot of responsibility. What if something happens to you? What if you fall? What if there's an emergency? I've managed for 8 years since your father died." "I know, but you're getting older. We just want to make sure you're protected." "Protected," I repeated. "Or controlled?" His face tightened. "That's not what this is." "Then tell me what it is. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you want the shop before I'm ready to give it." "That's not." He stopped, took a breath. "Okay, fine. Yes, the shop has value. Yes, we could use that value. But that doesn't mean we don't care about you." I set down my tea. "Michael, do you remember Mrs. Okonkwo?" He frowned. "The woman who worked here?" "Jenny. She worked here for 12 years. Single mother, 2 kids. I paid her more than I could afford because she needed it. When her son got into college, I helped with his tuition." "I remember. Do you know where she is now?" He shook his head. "She's the director of the community center in Riverside. Her son is a teacher. Her daughter is in nursing school." I looked at my son, really looked at him. That's what this shop does. It helps people. It matters. "Mom, I'm not saying it doesn't matter. I'm saying there are practical considerations, and I'm saying some things are more important than practical." He stood up, frustration breaking through. "Why do you have to make this so difficult? We're your family. We're supposed to take care of each other." "Then, take care of me," I said quietly. "Call me without asking for something. Visit without an agenda. Remember my birthday without your wife reminding you." I kept my voice steady. "That's taking care of each other. Not this." He stared at me for a long moment. Then he walked out without another word. I added a line to my ledger. Told the truth. It hurt us both. The weeks that followed were the quietest I'd known in years. No calls, no visits, no registered letters. The silence should have felt lonely, but instead it felt like space, room to breathe. I threw myself into the shop. Summer reading program for the kids, book club for the seniors, a poetry night that drew more people than I expected. Jenny came to that one, all the way from Riverside, and when she saw me, she wrapped me in a hug that nearly knocked me over. "I heard what you're doing," she said quietly. "With the foundation, how did you..." Arthur's wife told me. Small town. She pulled back, her eyes bright. Helen, are you sure? More sure than I've been about anything in years. She squeezed my hands. Your husband would be so proud. I thought about that all night. Frank, proud. It was the only approval I needed. But silence doesn't last forever. Not with children who feel entitled to your property. The final confrontation came on a Saturday afternoon in August. I was restocking the travel section when the bell chimed and both Michael and Karen walked in. Their expressions were set, determined. We need to talk, Michael said. Now. I led them to the back office. My neighbor Ruth, who'd been helping with inventory, followed without being asked. I'd told her this might happen. She carried a small notebook and sat quietly in the corner. What's she doing here? Karen demanded. Taking notes, Ruth said. Michael ignored her. He slapped a thick envelope on my desk. Mom, we've been patient. We've given you time. But enough is enough. This is the paperwork. Sign it today, and we can put all of this behind us. I didn't touch the envelope. I've already made my decision. Karen leaned forward. What does that mean? I opened my desk drawer and pulled out the red folder. It means the shop has been legally transferred to the Millbrook Literacy Foundation. The paperwork was filed 6 weeks ago. It's done. The silence that followed was so complete, I could hear the clock ticking on the wall. Michael's face went white. You're joking. I'm not. You gave away our inheritance to a charity? I gave my shop to an organization that will use it to help people, the way it's always been used. Karen's voice rose to a shriek. You can't do this. We'll contest it. We'll prove you were manipulated, that you're not competent to make these decisions. I pulled out Dr. Patterson's letter and laid it on the desk. Capacity evaluation from 3 weeks ago. Fully competent. I added the transfer documents, notarized and filed. Retained life estate, meaning I operate the shop until I pass. I laid down the bank statements. My finances, managed by me. And finally, my daily log. 6 weeks of documentation, proving I run my own life. I looked at my son. You can try to fight this, but what you'll be fighting is my signature, my doctor's letter, the law, and my will. What you'll be showing a judge isn't love, it's greed. Michael's hands were shaking. Mom, how could you do this to us? I didn't do anything to you. I did something for myself, for the first time in decades. Karen stood up so fast her chair scraped against the floor. This is insane. You're throwing away everything Frank built. Frank built this shop to serve the community, I said calmly. That's exactly what it will continue to do. Fine. Michael's voice was cold now. If this is how you want it, then we're done. Don't expect us at Christmas. Don't expect us at your funeral. Don't expect anything from us ever again. I met his eyes. I expect nothing, I said. And for the first time, that feels like freedom. They left. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the windows. Ruth set down her notebook. You were clear. I was myself. She squeezed my shoulder and went back to the front of the shop, giving me privacy. I sat alone in my office for a long time, looking at the red folder, at all the evidence of my own life laid out in neat stacks. My hands weren't shaking. My heart wasn't racing. I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. That evening, I walked to the foundation's office. Catherine, the director, met me at the door. She was younger than me, maybe 50, with kind eyes and a firm handshake. I heard there was some drama today, she said. Small town. She smiled. Helen, I want to make sure you're okay. This is a big decision. Family is complicated. Family is supposed to lift you up, I said, not weigh you down. She nodded slowly. What can we do for you? When the time comes, don't put my name on anything. Call it Frank's shop, if you call it anything. He always wanted a place full of stories. Frank's shop, she smiled. I like that. We talked for an hour about plans, possibilities, futures. By the time I left, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. I walked home slowly, savoring the evening air, the smell of someone's barbecue, the sound of children playing in a nearby yard. The shop was dark when I passed it, but I could see the display in the window. Summer reads, arranged carefully. A sign that said, "Every book is a new adventure." I'd written that sign 30 years ago, and somehow it was still true. When I got home, I made dinner for one. Soup and bread, simple and warm. I ate at the kitchen table, looking at the empty chair across from me. "It's done, Frank," I said to the quiet room. "Really done." The house seemed to breathe around me, settling into contentment. That night, I wrote the final entry in my ledger. Shop secured, family faced, fear released, self found. I closed the notebook and put it away. Not on the shelf, in the drawer with the red folder. Some things you keep within reach. Before bed, I stood in my doorway and looked at the life I'd built. The books on every surface, the photographs on the walls, the small signs of 30 years of loving and losing and starting again. Nothing had changed today, and yet everything had. Here is what I know now, at 68. Love doesn't require you to give up everything. Sacrifice isn't a debt your children can collect. And if they threaten to walk away, sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let them. If you're reading this with a weight on your chest, set it down. Call a lawyer, change a lock, say no without apologizing. Your life belongs to you. It always has. I turned off the light. The house exhaled. So did I.